guys? Welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an email that was sent from a subscriber. This is from a guy. He's sent a few stories in before, his own personal life and all that. But this particular one, he's writing in as a tribute to a very good man that he knew from his childhood who recently passed away. And he's writing in about the guy, how he knew him when he was young. And this is obviously an older gentleman who is a classic example of what a good man is. Old school good guy taking care of his family. And although this is different than my normal stories about drama and turmoil and all that, this is just really a tribute to a good guy. And in particular, for all you young guys out there that don't have kids yet, that sometimes thought your dads were too tough or jerks or anything like that, you got to understand that your dads and grandpas and all that, they went through a lot to take care of you and your family. They've sacrificed probably a lot of their own happiness and pride to put food on the table, to help out, to make your life better. And it needs to be understood what they did. And this guy is an example of that. And what's even better is in this situation is this guy, a lot of times when good men do what they can to take care of their families and make personal sacrifices and all that, a lot of times their own pride to provide, they aren't appreciated. But this guy, luckily and fortunately, was appreciated by his loved ones. So I'm going to share this story, not too long, but it's a tribute to the dude in the story. He says, hello SSM. Jay here again with a story for you and your viewers. I'll go ahead and state this is not your typical content, so I fully understand that this does not make the cut. This does not involve cheaters, sex scandals, or open marriages, haha. Unfortunately, it's a sad story, but one I felt needed to be shared. Well, that's okay, man. Not everything has to be drama central over here. Hell, that's what the other two channels are for. And if you guys like drama stories, go check out my other two channels. They Did What? For longer stories of drama, and Hit the Bricks for shorter stories. They're both doing quite well. Since you often advocate for teaching lessons through your channel, I hope this is a story that may be helpful to your viewers. I personally learned a lot from this experience, and it absolutely helped to shape the person I am today. This taught me a lot about sacrifice, gratitude, and a man's role in his family. My family and I moved around a lot growing up, but I call a small city in the Northeast of the United States home. We lived here for about 5 to 6 years when I was going through elementary school. My father's job moved us multiple times in the following years, but when I was finishing up high school, we had the option to return to the city. We all agreed that returning to this place, where we still maintained friendships over the years, it'd be a much better option than relocating to a new city and starting all over once again. Seeing all the familiar faces again was great. We all enjoyed reconnecting with people that we hadn't seen in years, and we felt very comfortable returning to this area. Sounds like a great place, man. I'm guessing that's where you live now? One gentleman who we reconnected with was a guy called Jimmy. I feel a bit bad keeping his name anonymous because sharing this story is meant to honor this man, but out of privacy for him and his family, I will keep it anonymous. That's all right. Jimmy's a good name. Jimmy it is. Jimmy was a very successful contractor in the area and known mostly for his home painting and carpentry work. Jimmy had done a lot of work for my parents over the years when we first moved to the area, and my parents had hired him to paint and do other work on the first home that they bought together as a couple. It was a very special moment for my parents being first homeowners, and they trusted Jimmy to turn into their dream home. So Jimmy was a good guy, good reputation, because he obviously did good work. He was honest, fair dealings and all that, something that sadly you don't get a whole lot of nowadays. In all the moves we did over the years, it was not uncommon to hear my mom joke about wishing she could call Jimmy to come repaint her new kitchen or dining room, etc. His work was really that good, and in today's world, an honest and skilled contractor is worth their weight in gold, according to my dad. Well, your dad's right. It isn't just a contractor. It's your electrician, your plumber, your air conditioning guy, the mechanic for your car, all those things. That having a good one that's trustworthy, weight in gold. While we made our move to return to the city, I spent my elementary years growing up. My parents bought a nice home in an upscale neighborhood. Jimmy was one of the first contacts to begin doing some work around the house. Unfortunately, this is where the story begins to become a sad one. Jimmy was now in his 60s and was unable to maintain the same high-quality standard of craftsmanship that he was known for. The man had worked hard his entire life, and the work he dedicated his life to, he was now struggling with. Because he's getting older, and obviously things aren't working like they used to. His vision's probably off. Injuries, who knows? And it probably kills him that he can't do the same level of skill and good quality that he once did. but he obviously has to pay the bills and take care of his family. After about a week of him taking on a job to repaint a section of the home, I'd overheard my parents talking about not being happy with the work. There were many imperfections and it was going to need to be corrected. My mom and dad both agreed that they would have to fire a man they regarded as an absolute professional who was amongst the best at his craft but could no longer meet their expectations. I'm going to guess that, number one, it had to be pretty bad for your parents who really, really liked him and all that to come to that point. I mean, it had been really bad, and they didn't want to do this. On the other hand, I had to think there could have been other things that could have been done. I don't know, but there's obviously a reason behind all this. It was a very hard decision because they really cared about Jimmy and wanted to be able to support his business. Well, again, it had been pretty bad, and, at the end of the day, if you're hiring somebody to do a great job, and you can't have half-assed jobs here, but there's obviously something going on. One day after school, it was a nice warm day, and I had the window open playing some video games. I overheard my dad discussing with Jimmy outside of the driveway some of the issues they had with his painting, and they would unfortunately have to let him go. Oh, man. Obviously, this guy isn't being a slacker on purpose. My dad, who is also a great example of a good man, exclaimed how thankful they were for all the amazing work that Jimmy had done for them over the years, and they just came to the difficult conclusion that with that job half completed with so many imperfections in the work, that they had to fire Jimmy and hire another contractor to complete the job and make their corrections. That's a tough situation, My dad then handed Jimmy a check, which I came to learn was for the total cost of completing the job. Well, that's nice of your dad. He paid for the whole thing, even though it was half done, and obviously they're going to pay somebody to redo it. Something my dad always respected about Jimmy is that he would never price gouge his clients. He was a fair and honest man who simply took extreme pride in his work. When Jimmy saw the check, he burst into tears. It was the first time I had ever heard a grown man cry. Well, what does that say? That Jimmy obviously is doing what he has to do, but inside, he's probably crumbling. There's a reason, obviously, he can't do the same work he did. And he needs the money. And this guy, he's broke down. Every guy's a breaking point. Jimmy then profusely apologized and admitted that he required a very expensive surgery on his dominant hand, and he'd been struggling for over a year with losing his dexterity and trembling grip. There you go. I knew it. I read this story before, but I knew it when I was reading it. There's something wrong. He can't do the job he once did, but he's in his 60s. He obviously can't stop working just yet. And he takes great pride and joy. For those of you that take pride and joy in your work and always want to do a fantastic job, and your reputation to you isn't just about your pay, it's also your reputation is important. Imagine how torn apart you'd be in this situation. And he's not going to get as much work, but he needs the money. He had lost multiple other clients in this time, but being the honest man that he is, he never once charged his clients his standard rate if he was fired before completing a job, or if he completed a job and was unsatisfied with the work he did. So yeah, that shows some serious integrity with this guy. He was reducing the cost knowing he could no longer deliver the same quality of work that he was known for, a job that Jimmy had proudly done his whole adult life. He was ashamed that he could no longer take pride in his work, but he had a family to support. Right there. He's doing what he has to do for his family, and yeah, that's tough. He told my dad that his son was in medical school, and he was doing everything he could to help his son become a doctor and earn his dream job, while also keeping the family afloat in his later years, when many men were looking to finally retire. He didn't have to do that. He didn't have to do that for the son in medical school. And quite frankly, the son in medical school should have taken care of his own loan, so his dad here wasn't. But the point is, he was doing this because he loved his boy, and he's taking care of his family. The surgery Jimmy needed, even if he had insurance, I assume would have been very costly, and as he being the main breadwinner, the surgery would keep him out of work for weeks, possibly months. Yeah, remember, when you're in business for yourself, particularly if it's just you, if you're not working, you're not bringing any money. My dad hugged Jimmy and wished him and his family well, thanked him again for all the excellent work he'd done for our family homes over the years, and again apologized and sympathized with the trying times that he was experiencing. My dad promised he would help Jimmy get more work if his corrective surgery was successful. Now, I'm thinking a guy like Jimmy, who obviously is probably good at a lot of things, there could have been something he could have done. But the point is, the guy was really in a bad place, and I'm guessing probably the wife didn't work, because this was a while ago, and obviously it was him bringing home the bacon the whole time, doing what he had to do, swallowing his pride, getting fired, all that. Yeah, for his family. This was extremely emotional for me. I grew up in a very fortunate situation with financially well-off parents. I never had to struggle or sacrifice anything in my life, but in that moment, I got to see what that looks like. I hoped and prayed that Jimmy's family was aware just how dedicated he was to providing for them and being a father and husband. You're darn right. I'm glad you got to, I know that was hard for you to hear, but I'm glad you got to hear that because, yeah, as you said, you're raised in a family where money, everything was, you were comfortable. Not rich, but comfortable. A lot of people are like this and struggling and going through it. Not just stress to take care of their families, but sometimes a lot of their pride's hurt, I'm telling this story now because I sadly learned today of Jimmy's passing. Over a decade since I had last seen him in our driveway, Jimmy passed away in his 70s from cancer. He was surrounded by his loving family, wife, kids, and now grandkids. I was sad to hear of his passing, but I was happy to know that they all loved him and appreciated him as much as I'd hoped they did. Well, thank God for that. That's great. And you know what? That's probably the way he wanted to go out, with all the family around, family, wife, kids, grandkids, and this amazing memory of him. You're honoring him by telling his story. Jimmy passed away in the same hospital that his son now works in as a doctor. There you go. All of his sacrifices and dedication to his craft, the hard work he did to provide for his family, is perhaps one of the most admirable things I've ever witnessed. Well, learn from him. Only by chance of leaving a window open on a spring day, I got to experience the hard reality of being a man, a father, and provider. I never got to tell Jimmy this, but I respect him so much, and even in a very difficult moment in his life, he taught one of the most valuable things in life I may ever receive. To the guys out there listening, make sure you let your loved ones know that they are loved and appreciated. Right there. And especially you young guys that aren't parents yet, that don't quite get what your parents, and yeah, even your mom too, went through for you and all that. Whether you're aware or not, the men in our lives are making sacrifices one way or another to support their families. One day I myself will likely end up in situations where I must put my family first before myself, and I will do so. I personally looked at my dad completely different after overhearing this exchange with Jimmy. I let him know how grateful I was and appreciative I was of his hard work, ethic, and dedication to being a damn good father and loving husband. Thanks a lot, Jay. Well, shit, Jay, that's a sad story, but I'm glad you shared it about good old Jimmy. So let's take a moment and raise a glass or a Dasani water here to Jimmy. And all the fathers out there that do what they got to do to take care of their families. And, I always say, guys, you got to take care of you. And I mean that, and put yourself ahead. But how can I say this? You got a family, you got kids, obviously, and they're your kids. You got to take care of them and do what you got to do, But it doesn't mean make yourself miserable. And it doesn't sound like Jimmy was miserable. He obviously does a very good contractor, great career. It was only in the end that things happen, and it's a sad situation. I don't know what happened. I'd love to hear that he got his surgery on his hand, and after some time get back to work and got to end on a high note here. Who knows what happened? But the point is, he still continued to live on another decade and was surrounded by loving friends and family. And it's so nice to hear he's appreciated, because so many guys are not appreciated. Now I say don't ever put your women first ahead of you and make yourself miserable. You never light yourself on fire to keep yourself warm. But in this situation with a family that's good to you and loving, and your wife loving, loyal, supportive, all that, and the kids, then I get it in a situation like this. But sadly, most of the time, it's not that. But even still, I do still think that son of his could have taken care of his own freaking medical school bills, so dad didn't have to work so hard, be so stressed out. But the point is, this guy was a good guy doing what he had to do. And so many people, fathers and mothers, let's be honest, shout out to some of the good moms too, do what they can for their kids. The problem is when you're a kid, you're so fucking self-absorbed, you don't think about that. And I'm thinking now about Jimmy and just how obviously it hurt him so much that he was losing the jobs, not because he was purposely screwing up, because he had an injury in his hand, but he had to do what he had to do. And it's a tough situation. I think of these poor fathers that, are getting older and they lose their job, and it's harder when you get older unless you have a very good set of skills or specialties or knowledge to get rehired, and they got a family to take care of. They're not quite ready to retire yet, But so, guys, a shout out to all the good fathers out there doing what they got to do, all the good men. And this makes me infuriated when I hear women bitching and complaining. There are no good men out there. Bullshit. Most guys are like Jimmy in varying degrees, So, yeah. But anyhow, I appreciate you writing in this story, guys. Again, this is not a drama-filled story. It's just a story of a good man doing what he had to do to take care of his family, an old school guy. And so I made Jimmy rest in peace. And again, a shout out to Jimmy, codename Jimmy. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And, guys, you got a good story to share, whether it's drama-filled or not, something that's useful, send it my way, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. Just if it works for the channel, I'll definitely cover it. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.